terror trail. New details about this man, an al-Qaeda operative who's been living in the U.S. and communicating with top terrorists overseas. The war zone, the American plan to root out enemy fighters in Iraq, why it may not be so easy. Decision 2004, our new series, Divided We Stand. Tonight, the all-out fight for Hispanic voters. And star power. Here in Athens, this American teenager chasing a record 8 gold medals at the Summer Olympic Games.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from Athens.
Good evening from Athens, where the opening ceremonies for the Olympic Games are now just 2 nights away, and Greece is ready. And out there tonight in this ancient country, in uniform and undercover, Greek, NATO, American, and other security forces from around the world are on duty, determined to keep the games, the athletes, and the spectators safe from any terrorist attacks. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., federal authorities are closely questioning an American arrested earlier this year in connection with a terrorist threat in London. And as NBC Pete Williams reports tonight, authorities want to know whether the well-traveled suspect has information about the recently disclosed threats against American financial institutions.
U.S. officials tonight say this man, Mohammed Junaid Babar, has turned out to be a tantalizing figure in the investigation into the al-Qaeda plot to attack the 5 buildings in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Newark. It turns out he also met top al-Qaeda leaders earlier this year in Pakistan. Babar was actually arrested in March, and as NBC News reported last week, pleaded guilty in secret in June, admitting his part in a plan to bomb targets in London. A huge sweep by British police broke that up in late March. Babar was born in the U.S., raised in a New York City suburb, but has no love for his birthplace.
I did grow up there, but that doesn't mean that my loyalty is with the Americans. My loyalty has always been, is, and forever will be with the Muslims.
Now authorities are exploring a possible connection between Babar and members of another British cell arrested last week, which included Asa al-Hindi, the man believed to have done most of the surveillance of the U.S. financial buildings himself. NBC News has learned that investigators now have proof that al-Hindi was actually in the U.S. at the time the buildings were cased.
I will kill every American that I see.
As for Mohammed Babar, investigators are also exploring a trip he admitted taking earlier this year to South Waziristan, a remote part of Pakistan near the Afghan border, now thought to be the center of al-Qaeda's top planners. He met there with a man U.S. authorities confirm was a top al-Qaeda official and delivered night vision goggles, waterproof clothing, and money. U.S. authorities say Babar is now cooperating with them, and his family has been placed in the Witness Protection Program. A terrorism expert says the U.S. has made big strides in uncovering all the recent leads.
Our ability to connect the dots and to link disparate al-Qaeda activities in a number of different countries has improved exponentially since September 11th, 2001.
That intelligence is paying enormous dividends. Officials tonight say operations to round up more al-Qaeda operatives are now underway. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
And in Iraq, U.S. troops faced another day under heavy fire. However, a new massive U.S. operation to crush those enemy fighters was called off today. That was a surprise reversal. Still, the fighting does continue around a shrine that is one of the holiest sites in Shiite Islam. And any damage from a military assault would surely enrage Iraq's broader Shiite population. NBC's Jennifer Eccleston has the latest on the guerrilla warfare across Iraq today.
The confrontation shows no sign of ending. U.S. and Iraqi forces and militants loyal to Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr battled for a 7th day across several Iraqi cities. In the holy city of Najaf in southern Iraq, in Kut, also in the south, and overnight in Baghdad Sadr city, ignoring a curfew. Today, a spokesman for al-Sadr urged his followers to continue the fight, even if the cleric is killed. It's the toughest challenge yet for Iraq's new interim government. In Nasiriyah, thousands protested against acting Prime Minister Iyad Alawi and the U.S. military operation in Najaf. They called Alawi a coward, an American agent. Just who are these al-Sadr supporters? mainly young men, poorly educated and unemployed.
These kind of people are his cannon fodder. So he's very powerful with them, he's very influential, and he can create a lot of trouble for the government.
Today, the government promised to crush the insurgents if they don't stop fighting. And the U.S. military, while announcing plans for a final assault on Najaf, said the timing would be left up to Prime Minister Alawi. For Alawi, the stakes are high. Today on Al Jazeera, Iraq's deputy president seemed to break with Alawi, saying that U.S. forces should leave Najaf, that Iraqis should be left to put down the uprising. But that's unlikely to happen. For now, the Americans are playing a major role, brought into Najaf by the new government, demonstrating vividly just how dependent it still is on American support. Jennifer Eccleston, NBC News, Baghdad.
Also today, an Islamic militant website showed a video purporting to show the beheading of a CIA agent in Iraq, but in Washington, a CIA official tells NBC News none of its officers are missing, and the man on the video is not an officer of the agency. CIA analysts examining the images still don't know who the victim actually is, but they're especially interested in an ID badge that appears to be written in English. Now to American politics in a new series that we're running called Divided We Stand. We'll have this on occasion until Election Day. We're going to be taking a look at different groups of voters who could make a big difference in this close election. Tonight, Hispanic voters, the fastest growing group in the country. Both sides are working hard to win Hispanic votes. Here's NBC's David Gregory.
Ground zero in this year's fight for Hispanic voters is the Southwest, states like New Mexico, where President Bush came today.
Fe, familia y esperanza.
Senator John Kerry's whistle-stop tour came through New Mexico and Arizona 2 days ago.
Muchas gracias. God bless.
Antonio Gonzalez runs the Southwest Voter Project, the country's largest Hispanic voter registration group.
We've become sexy, and in political terms, in political years like this year, that's a good thing.
In battleground states New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Florida, where the Hispanic vote is large and critical, the air war has begun.
Soy George W. Bush y aprobé este mensaje.
John Kerry, nuestra esperanza para un futuro mejor.
Both sides have already spent more on TV ads than during campaign 2000.
Coming from diverse backgrounds, Hispanics don't always vote as a bloc. Still, they make up the fastest growing voting group in the country. Last time, the president got 35% of the Hispanic vote. This year, his advisors say he must do better.
Which is why the Bush campaign has stepped up its outreach in states like Florida.
We have a president that is a principled president.
The target, first-generation Hispanic voters who are in sync with the president on issues like abortion and gay marriage. Democrats feel they have an edge on the economy and on an issue critical to Hispanics.
In one survey after another, Latinos absolutely say that education is their top issue.
In Casa Grande, Arizona, outside Phoenix, the war in Iraq weighs heavily on voters like Francisco Medina.
I can put myself in the shoes of those dads, brothers and husbands and wives. They lost their loved ones over there, and I don't see justification for it.
Rosa Martinez is still undecided.
I'm waiting for the debates and looking forward to see what they have to offer.
In a race so close, any group of swing voters could make all the difference. David Gregory, NBC News, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Back here in Athens, a dramatic homecoming today for the Olympic torch, which left this capital city in early June on a trek across 6 continents and 27 nations. It's now back. The flame made its way through various Athens neighborhoods today and finally made it to the city's biggest port, where it will remain overnight. The torch's trip through Greater Athens continues tomorrow and Friday, of course. It arrives at the new Olympic Stadium for the opening ceremonies that night. The torch's trip through the city is providing an early test of the extraordinary security here, which, as NBC's Richard Engel reports now, is military tight 24 hours a day.
By air, land, and sea, Greece and NATO have launched the biggest military operation outside Iraq. NATO's spy planes, AWACS, fly over Greece 18 hours a day, identifying every plane.
These AWACS can not only see almost everything in the air for at least a 300-mile radius, but also in an emergency, they can direct fighter jets to a threat and coordinate a rescue mission.
Probably the main threat would be the airborne 9/11 type threat where a civilian or commercial airline is diverted.
If the multinational crew spots a rogue plane, it will alert the Greek military to scramble its Mirage fighter jets or order the U.S.-supplied Patriot missiles to shoot it down. Why does Greece need all this? It has 9,000 miles of coastline and mountainous borders, hard to protect. And known al-Qaeda cells operate nearby in the Balkans. NBC News has learned there has been a recent increase in al-Qaeda chatter about Athens. Intelligence sources say al-Qaeda studied the Munich Olympic attacks and at the Sydney Games considered detonating truck bombs.
No one should be surprised with an attack on a major international event such as the Olympics. Global jihadis would find it obviously very tempting.
A Kevlar-skinned blimp now hovers over Athens with cameras and sensors to sniff out chemical or biological weapons. It's connected to a network of more than 1,000 centrally controlled surveillance cameras across the city. NATO bioweapons containment teams and radiation detectors are at airports, border crossings, and Olympic venues. And more than 100,000 Greek police, soldiers, and special forces are deployed. The Greeks have also allowed hundreds of American commandos, CIA, and FBI agents into the country.
And this harbor, Piraeus Harbor, the biggest in Athens, is one of the areas security forces are most concerned about. During the Olympic Games, celebrities and VIPs, including the U.S. men's basketball team, will be staying on these cruise ships and yachts.
So the Greek Navy has mobilized its entire fleet. NBC News went along on a drill. The mission, how to intercept a ship packed with explosives and chemical waste. Now, with months of training and NATO's military muscle and expertise, the Greeks say they're ready for any contingency. Richard Engel, NBC News, Athens.
NBC News in depth tonight, my conversation with the point man for the United States here in Athens. And later, bad weather in several parts of the country, including parts of Oklahoma, underwater.